that I've learned was essentially the incentive layer of like how you can incentivize people to 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 do things and then once you start that cycle, you're essentially like incentivizing like obviously it's like initially I would argue that kind of like kicks it in this like economy. And so that was kind of like the inspiring feature that I liked about the voting mechanism of BitTensor, of like how you would like distribute tokens based on votes. And so I wanted to generalize that into not just validators voting with their tokens, but like users as well. So I would say Commune is trying to address a more like I guess general problem of how do we incentivize people to coordinate, not on like a subnet level, but on like an individual level, if that makes sense. Which is why we have one subnet, or we're focusing right now on one subnet, and we can obviously do more specialized subnets if we want to. But my theory is that you can do everything in one like ecosystem. Who's doing that? All right, so all right, cool, too. Okay, y'all can still hear me, right? Good.
Can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Um, so yeah, was that clear? So like, the similarity I would say would be the voting system. Um, Everything else is like pretty much different, like in terms of like the off-chain stuff, which is most of the code I've been contributing for the past 3 years. I've joined the team in September of last year. And that's kind of how I was like, oh shit, like I could have this really, really light voting system on top of like all this off-chain stuff that I did. And so that's why it's like, this is a lot of code. But most of it's stuff that I've done before with Tensor. So yeah. Any other questions? Let's see, feel free to ask them. Oh, it's being recorded. Uh, yeah. So more into like the off-chain stuff. Wait, no. How can I record this in? We should next time we'll do like Twitter streams. But all right, well, uh, yeah, I guess this is not gonna be recorded unfortunately. But we'll do this. We're gonna do this like bi-weekly. Like uh I want to keep more like in sync with the community, and I want to have more like engagement, and also like people like I want to have prizes every week where it's like the coolest modules get like I don't know like a certain reward. We'll like decide that. But anyways, the off-chain stuff. So okay, what do I mean by that? So the off-chain stuff is essentially so um when you start a commune node, right? When you install the Python package, it essentially gives you like the main mechanism that I like about it is that when I deploy a server, I give a name to that server, right? And so basically what you're doing is you're creating a mini internet on your local computer of like, oh, I created this storage module. I created this model module, right? Like you create whatever module you want, call it whatever you want, and then like you have it running like you know that like oh this server is running as this name. So it's kind of like a really generic way of interacting with like APIs, and you can generalize that across anything because everything on the internet is an API interface with us, right? So that was kind of like the epiphany of like, oh shit, like if we use a blockchain to connect all of these namespaces or all of these like mini internets, we can have like a super internet of like, all these crazy like the applications and like you're gonna have fractions and like people are gonna like compete like as like it's gonna be weird and you're gonna have good guys and bad guys, but ultimately I want people to like kind of form their own communities and connect with each other, share their own APIs with each other. It doesn't have to be like public, it could be just like two friends doing it and like working on a small project. But that's mostly what I mean by the off-chain stuff. everything else is like coordinated through like cryptography. So in order for me to use your, let's say, modules, you're going to have to add my key as a user. And vice versa, right? And there's two types of users right now. There's the admin, which is basically full control of everything, call any function on any module that's running on that computer. And there's like, there's less controlling things like the user. So you can call like whitelist functions, which are meant to be public and not like too invasive to the server. So it's not like I'm like I can delete like all the files on this server or like copy the private keys, right? So that's kind of what I mean by the off chain, which is basically what I would consider to be most of Commune. Ooh, what? See, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go through some of the questions here. Everything has been 50% real. We're at 50%. So 15% yearly. Is that API? Is that API? Um. Okay. Wait, sorry, that's a lot of questions. Okay. Okay. Can we keep the message in the vibing space to questions right now so that I can like kind of see what's going on? Um. Okay. Where do I see Commune in 2 years? That's a good question. So I see Commune basically as I want to solve the housing market and the insurance industry. I think those are two industries that I think you can collectively use AI as well as like people's like collective funds to create like zero profit margin or low profit margin industries that actually help people. Like for instance, if we created like an insurance pool which would consist of like a bunch of like you can do it on Ethereum or whatnot, but like creating these liquidity pools that can be used to let's say collectively rent a building or basically create more like co living spaces. That's something I'm really interested in, the co living sector. And how will AI fund that, or how will the future of productivity fund this future of our living, because that's going to be more prevalent in terms of like AI will be make things more competitive, and it will eventually need to result in some economic structure to sustain us as humans. If that wasn't too abstract. uh, what is the plan for CX listings? So we want to make sure this is like really stable. Like as I said in the beginning, it's gonna be like a shit show because we're trying to like make things very general and also very simple. And so the good thing about I think like the good thing about being structured is like you obviously can have coordination. There's less uh like kind of like less ambiguities. And so that's great. And I would consider bit tended to be more on the side of like structured things are structured in that like I have to define schema in order to define a subnet, in order to define an application. And so with that becomes more stability. So right now, Commune is going through an interesting phase where its its feature of gender of flexibility in design right now, I would argue, is a bit of a thorn because it's like there's so many things you can do. It's like, oh shit, what can we do? So right now, like before I'm comfortable with doing a CEX listing, uh, which will probably happen in like maybe 1 or 2 months, um, is just like get the chain stable in a healthy state, making sure everyone's getting emissions for what they deserve for what they're putting in. That's to me that's my most important goal right now is having a direct parity or direct tie with the amount of effort or like the amount of cost you're doing, either time or whatever, to the tokens you get. That's the goal for me, and measuring that is important, I think. Yeah. When's the wrapped common Uniswap pool? Whenever someone does it, it'll probably be either done by the ComSwap devs or one of us. Like I we do have EVM modules. We do have like Solidity contracts we can deploy, and like I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to do a Uniswap like exchange, but like priorities right now aren't that specifically. So I'll have a bounty for that for anyone who wants to do that. And then obviously we'll have to like check in and stuff. But that's something I'll do a bounty for actually. So if anyone in the community wants to do that, reach out to me. Or if anyone has a cool idea, reach out to me. um, I'm gonna say okay. Okay. So the APY. So some people are saying the APY would be 50. You're saying it's 15%, or is that 15% right index? That's 15% is really low. Um, this is how I calculate the API roughly. And it's not fully exact because of the trust matrix. And I'll briefly explain what the trust matrix actually is. And it's quite simple. Like I want to also add diagrams as well, uh, to show like a full description. But um, like basically, the trust matrix is the number of people that vote for you. That's it, right? So it's like if two modules vote for you, like two validators vote for you, that will give you a trust score of 2. Um, if one module votes for you, if you vote for yourself, then you give yourself a trust score of 1. And so the idea is that like this represents a little bit the trust matrix in BitTensor's case, but their trust matrix is actually a proportion of 0 to 1. Ours is they apply a sigmoid function to it, because it's meant for one application, and so you could still use that same function, but I felt that having a linearity was important for people to understand where the score was coming from. And so so that trust matrix is important to understand because you can have um, not a lot of stake, and you can perhaps have a bunch of different like validators that are all like, let's say, voting more, and so you can have a higher impact by having more validators. And we're actually going to create our burn mechanism, which I'll explain right now. Um, Basically, will involve each module that registers on the network will have to pay a portion of the emissions. So the emissions that are generated right now is 250,000 tokens a day. If you adjust for like assuming that the total Bitcoin curve, like we're actually under the Bitcoin curve, because if we were following the Bitcoin curve, we'd be at 325,000. And so I honestly, in my opinion, I think right now like 250K is actually a good balance, and we can add 10 to 20% of that, so we can have a 10 to 20% emission burn, and we're gonna have a vote for that come Wednesday. Or we can what I propose is we have an on-chain vote come like when we anticipate to make a chain upgrade this Thursday, which would involve an on-chain vote to essentially make that decision of what the burn rate would be. So the possible values are between 0 and 100, and 0 being everything's the same, nothing's burning, and 100 being everything's being burnt and it's all being recycled as emissions. So like that 250K, none of it's being added to supply. It's all being from people burning. And if you want to go to 100, each module would have to burn about things 26 tokens a day, right? Uh, and so that might not be a lot actually if you're a validator and if you have more than 40,000 tokens, you can cover that. And so what's going to happen is you're going to have people that are going to like to get a higher ROI. You're going to have people that stack on like more people are going to stack their stake on less modules. But with the trust matrix, that incentivizes you to create more modules. So now, because you want that, you want more validators, so that you can vote with more. Like basically, like the more validators you have on the network, the more power, like the more impact your stake has. Um, so essentially, those two forces, I think, will be imposing, and we'll see where the equilibrium will land. But I do like a scenario where like you can't go too much in one direction and you can't go too much in the other, because there's like you're kind of like an elastic. You have elastics kind of like pulling you in both sides. So like usually if you have it pulling you in one side, like if we're just like saying, hey, you could sign up as many modules as you want, and we have the trust matrix, like I could, as a large holder, can basically just fraction my large stake into a bunch of smaller keys, and then like which is what you can do now, and then like vote for like with like vote for a subset of modules or vote for a portion of the modules, right? And that might not work because other people can do that too, uh, which is the beauty of the fairness. But I think to add, when adding that burn mechanism, you're spending more as you're adding more modules. So you're gonna have like there's gonna be an equilibrium that like each person's gonna have, because each module is gonna have like, oh, if I'm spending 1 token a day per module, then I can't have too low of stake on each one. And so it's like a good balance that's gonna happen, and that's why I kind of like that feature. But we can talk about that if you guys want. Can ask questions about that. Um, yes. So does when it makes sense to apply the burn only to modules with a mistake on it, so it doesn't introduce the cost to normal modules offering some service, not voting? So okay, that's a good question. So I was thinking maybe what we can do is we could have a minimum burn for modules that vote. So we can have. I was thinking actually of uh, introducing a small fix or a small change that would be, if you want to vote, you would burn. So, and the more you would burn, like that burn multiplies your vote. So if I wanted to burn 10 tokens a day, and the minimum was like 1 token a day, I should have 10 times the vote than someone burning 1 token a day. Um, and so that's actually staking. Like that's, in my opinion, that's you're actually staking something. You're like, I am really sure that these modules, like I think they're worth 10 like tokens a day for me to like burn, in order to like make sure like that they stay on the network. So what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of this cycling, and people will essentially vote for the best modules, the most important applications. And so and you're gonna it's going to be a closed loop economy where the people that are burning those tokens are to be going to the most used modules, or at least that's like the hope of what we're trying to do. Um, so okay. So minimum stake on it. So basically, we are right now second from the console people. How can we make a voting vote for ourselves to actually make our emissions bigger for a people that trust us? So yeah, voting for yourselves will it will increase your emission, like you're worth 1 point, so it will increase your, like you can try that and see how, like I haven't done it just because I wanted to stay. I didn't like I was thinking of doing it for for certain like applications, but I wanted to make sure that like I haven't done it yet, so I actually don't know what the increase would be, because yes, you're voting for yourself. So if you have a lot of tokens, then that will give you both the incentive and the dividends. Um, and so the reason why I wanted to enable, or the reason why I enabled voting for yourself, was to essentially allow stakers to directly stake a module, and that module would instantly get like rewards as well as it's trying to figure out what it's becoming. So like what's going to happen is that each module is going to become its own thing, and then it's going to have its own community of stakers, and it will give access to that community of stakers based on their stake value. So if I stake to, let's say, an agent, I will have the ability to call that agent more than if I didn't stake it. And each module will have its own economy, in like requirements. if that makes sense. So you can try it and let me know. We don't have the statistics right now for that, in terms of like self versus non-self, but you will definitely increase your emissions for sure. Take this taker. No, no. So staking, no, no. Okay, staking is safe. The validators don't take your token. Um, it's just redistributed every 100 blocks, like on chain. So like this is like a thing that happens on chain. The validators aren't taking anything away from you. You're just distributing the dividends. Okay. And yes, can feel free to ask questions in person too. You don't have to write them down. So yeah, so right now it's if you like if you look at the voting, it's just C vote. And so like the way it works is you just specify the UIDs or the as well as the weights for each of those UIDs, and you would have to just include your own UID as well in that. Yeah, and so yeah, so this. Sorry, how are you thinking about the on-chain voting? Okay, yes. So the on-chain voting will work like this. When some so similar to how we made changes before is because like I would say something on Discord, we talk about it, people would vote using emojis. The reason why I think that's actually a decent way of doing it is because right now bots are it's very hard for bots to like kind of like automate that, and you'd have to maybe you can hire a bunch of people to like do that, but it's like usually like if we're making a decision, I'm pretty sure right now the community. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm gonna meet right now. See you guys later. My dad, grandson. But yeah. So, how it's gonna work is, let's say anyone can make a proposal, like in the network. So you have to be registered in the network, and then when you make a proposal, there's a certain expiry to that proposal, and within that expiry, the amount of votes that support that proposal have to reach a certain threshold. And right now, those votes are based on stake. We might have a quadratic stake option where, and that's another thing I want to talk about. Like introducing this quadratic stake feature will be an option we'll also vote on. So there's going to be a few votes we're going to be having this week. And what that will entail would be that your stake value is just taken like the square root of, like we just take the square root of it. So you're essentially, it's like just the way you think about it is like, two is one score, two like two having two tokens is one, four is two, eight is three, and then so on and so forth, right? So like as you go into like a million tokens, take the square root of that, it'll be like, 30,000 or something, right? So the point of that is to like decentralize uh the validators so that right now I really don't like that one validator has 13 million tokens. And that's actually the reason why we're experiencing a lot of issues with incentive, because the maximum amount of weights you can do is 840. And we can increase that uh, to a much higher amount. Like I'm fine with doing that, but I think it'd be much better if we had more validators. And so like having the quadratic stake would encourage that. So taking the square root of your stake, uh, like as the weight, that will just promote people to not just pile up on one validator. And with the burn mechanism, like you don't want to like have two like that. Like that's also going to bring it. That's going to not incentivize too low validators, because you can't like you need a certain minimum to maintain that to overcome the burn rate. So it's like there's two forces here. There's like so yeah, it's that's something we were also thinking about. But we're not going to implement it obviously until people prove that, or like we're not going to, yeah. But yeah, sorry. To answer your question succinctly, the voting will entail like someone makes a change to the parameters, um, and then or someone suggests a proposal. Oh, sorry, someone asked, so that's a question. Talk a bit about different modules that people have built, are building. If you're ready and cool, and see any composable view with it. Yes. And so yeah, that's a good thing. I actually want to schedule an event, maybe later this week or sometimes next week, of like showcasing everything. And so, like, I do want to showcase our dashboard that we're building that essentially allows you to connect with any of the modules on the network, assuming like you have enough stake. Right now, like because some of the modules are getting DOSed, like there's a stake rate limit. So the more stake you have, the more modules you can call. And it doesn't matter what right now. It doesn't matter where you have your module staked. It just matters how much stake you have because that would make it a bit more complicated because it already is. And if you uh, so you don't want to get DOS, but you also don't want to have too high of a stake limit because then that prevents you from being voted on because validators won't reach you. So we'll be going like some of the modules. Like, there's been a lot of modules. Like we have around 50. Well, we have over 100 modules technically. Because I've done a lot over the past few years, but recently we've done probably around 30 to 40 modules in the past like month, which is a lot. And that's because I like to basically do things in parallel, give a bunch of people small tasks instead of giving like one or two people a bunch of small tasks. And that tends to do much. It seems to do really well. Now, what we have right now done is we got text to video, we got video to video, we got video to image. No, not video to image. Image to video. We got lip sync. We got music generation. We got stock APIs. We got from like Alpaca. We got Replit. We got some of the validator. We got some validator APIs from like from Taostats. We got Open Router. We got like some Hugging Face models. You know, it doesn't like storage modules. It doesn't end there, right? And so right now the goal is to have this navigation like portal, which is like the dashboard we're building, which is comprising of like your wallet, uh, as well as like your portal to all the modules on the network, and so you can like interact with any of them just through like locally, right? And it's just connecting to those modules. And we'll add some features there in the coming days and weeks. But yeah. Yeah, we want to. I think we should start showcasing the modules. I'm gonna say let's target for Thursday. Let me think about. Let me see where things are, today. But I want to say let's schedule like another not AMA, but like more of like a showcase slash mini hackathon of like what did people create, and then like when we have this self voting thing, how it's gonna work is that a builder is going to log on onto the network. They're going to showcase, hey, like I did this. They might spend like maybe like a few tokens for the burn if they're not like, let's say if they don't have that much, they're like okay, let me just go on the network for like a few days, see if people are staking to me, advertise like hey, I'm doing this, like who wants to vote for me, and then like people start voting for them, and then they start covering that burn and then start making a daily income and then continue. It's like that's like kind of like adds new projects from like just not on like a like it's just like for a single developer, because that's kind of how I make a lot of deals, or like with developers now. It's like hey, like it's not voting, but it's more like voting with your money, which is essentially what this is trying to be. We're trying to basically connect users directly with developers, and I'm trying my best with these new changes that we'll showcase in the next like 2 days. In addition to the EVM voting changes, well, may like it's gonna potentially like shift the the staking mechanism more to a more user centric model than the current model, which requires like obviously validators. So like I want I think the future of AI will be more user centric. The users will be the validators, and the actual validators are more for other forms of sanity, but I don't think they're necessary. I think it's ultimately up to the users. Like you can have something that like counts to infinity, have all the validators you want for that, but no one will want it. So like in my case, it's proof of utility. That's the ultimate proof, whatever that means. But yeah, you can meme that or something. Yes. Oh wait, I need to check my phone. So any hey, sorry. Hey, sorry. I phone died. Uh, so sorry. Any questions? Any any more questions? Do I see your questions? We could just talk. What we want, like maybe some cool applications you guys want. Like I think you gotta understand how flexible this is. And even sliding and growing it. Like the whole idea is okay, like what's the coolest shit out there? And, like if it's open source, let's go. So we can just add it. But like, is there stuff that's like maybe open source, not that good, we can work on? That we can work on and add it. Honestly, maybe like don't feel like crazy. Maybe it's harder, but okay. Is it better or is it still shit? Okay. Okay, cool. It's slightly better. All right. uh Probably like grab my headphones in water or something. But yeah. Okay, so yeah, like if there's any like applications that we want to showcase, um, maybe there are. Oh, that's it. Okay. Oh, okay. So yeah, any questions? We got 20 minutes. So we close things up. No, not yet. We haven't reached out to CMC or Ken. For the showcase event, set a bounty for. Yeah, that's a good idea. Um, yeah, I like that. I could. We could do like whatever the community gives, I'll give as well. So like the best bounty or something. Like to dilute myself even more. Like guys, I hope you're okay. Like for all the FUD people, like I'm deliberately not like mining like too much. Actually, I don't think I'm trying not to mine at all. I'm having someone else mine and they don't know I don't tell them it's a validator code. So and sometimes they're having issues too. So like I'm trying my best to
basically make sure like I don't need that much money, I'll be honest. Like I just want to build cool stuff, and I care more about like other people having a fair share based on what they've contributed. So like that's for the record. For anyone that decides to say otherwise, they can talk to me if I have time to talk to them. But like you know, usually when I talk to those people, they don't really know what they're talking about. They're only so far. You start to see the cracks. So it's like, yeah, just like, but it's I can see. I'll admit, like me designing the network definitely puts me in control, um, and I'm aware of that. And yeah, like, but it's uh, it's hard, like, and to have a balance. And actually, a big concern I have is losing control of the network early on. Um, and I can't like be greedy, but I can't be too like philanthropic. um, although, I don't think it's being recorded, unfortunately. Um, like, although I don't know if we'll see. I'm a bit like I'm a bit scared too. There's a lot of smart people. And so hopefully you guys end up beating me in this network, which is fine. That's good. But please be on the same goal. Like, so for all of you listening, because right now I have 25% of the network. You guys can all collude against me. Like, so we need to form a good symbiosis with the community, and I think competition's good. We always need competition, but it needs to be like uh, very. We have some symbiotic. We need to for us to compete with OpenAI. It needs to be competitive. Like it needs to be competitive but cooperative. Like we have to understand that if we collectively combine and share our resources, uh, like that value mechanism makes us all like a lot. Like we're basically like getting alpha on the rest of the market. So it's like that's an unfortunate thing to think about it, but um, yeah, it's sorry, I'm rambling. Any questions?
Yeah, sorry, can I ask questions here? Speaking?
Of course, yeah.
Everyone's writing, so I'm a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah.
confused.
I
Yeah,
think dyslexic, so apologies for the lack of writing and stuff. Like I think in code and shapes, so like I'm trying to use ChatGPT more to like write out things that I have like half-assed thoughts of, or like so sorry. Yeah, but continue with the question.
yeah. So I joined the community, this community a while back ago, but I never really kind of, delved deep and kind of understood what exactly it is that you're doing. So
Hmm.
my question probably is, what is the pain point that you're trying to solve? You're like building a community that is integrated with AI, or
Yeah, yeah. So this is so I think the internet right now, it all stems from me wanting to make something public, and so for me to have done that, I had to go through several intermediaries, and I wanted to know if there was a way in which I could make something public without any intermediaries. And then that got me into like a rabbit hole of like how controlled the internet is, and how you have to register domains, and that those have to be KYC'd. And KYC is fine. Sure, terrorists suck. We don't want them to exchange stuff, but it's like it does limit our freedom to connect with anyone we want to without being like compromised. And so I just dedicated to creating a set of tools that allow people to basically coordinate servers across like any computer. And that limits to anything, that could be anything. That could be ML, that could be AI. Like I am an AI scientist by trade or physicist by trade. I've done a school in AI. I've been AI for 7 years. Came into crypto a few years ago, thinking that this would be a big thing. Um, But yeah, that's the biggest concern. It's just like allowing people to coordinate amongst themselves without needing like third parties, um, which sounds a bit silly, I think. But with AI getting more and more advanced, individuals will be able to create companies, and uh, the revenue for a lot of companies right now will probably go down over time, especially software. Like, so
Mm,
this is also one of the only companies I see, one of the only ideas that I also see being viable in the next couple of years. Like something that connects things. Because it's like if you make a lot of money now, it's not going to matter. Like if your business doesn't like get eaten up by AGI in like 5 years or something. But it's like I don't know. It's like uh, maybe there's like this is also like even if AGI happens, like there will be AGI that happens on a large scale. This is what you might see right now with QStar. And then over time, there's the open source community that will eventually reach the AGI on a small scale, and then you'll reach a learning algorithm that combines all small agents. And Canyon isn't necessarily.
everyone is. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah, go ahead.
like
Yeah,
everyone is kind of pushing for this AGI narrative, and I'm kind of getting it right. Of course, we're
yeah,
gonna achieve it in due time, but
yeah.
I'm kind of interested in this another philosophical term that I have been playing around, which would be maybe a CGI, a community general intelligence,
Mhm.
because I have a feeling. I have been listening for you for a while, and I have a feeling that you kind of understand that AI it's just a tool, like any other tool. It's super advanced, but it's a tool. So I was thinking, what if we use this tool to kind of improve community with the aim to create a CGI, a community general intelligence, and
Yeah,
that is what we have been pushing uh, in Alchemist, kind of behind the
yeah.
scenes for this idea.
No, that's
What do you
totally
think of
that's
idea
amazing.
like that, like
Yeah, no, that's
combining
amazing.
community intelligence in kind of one entity, if you will?
Yeah, like if if you can define that in a way like by community, I think yeah, you kind of mean like a symbiosis between the algorithms that serve the community and the community that serves the algorithms with its data or whatever the algorithm needs from the community. Um, maybe eventually those algorithms will be like people. I think they will be like people. Like like right now, AGI or whatever, OpenAI was kind of like throttled, like I
Mm,
don't know, the capabilities or humanness. Like you feel that when you're talking to the AI, it's good, like giving you responses, but it needs to feel more human and it has to have more empathy. And it can't just be like being super methodical all the time. It has to understand that, like, perhaps the best answer isn't the right one. Uh, or like it's something that that could be a slippery slope but it's like it's kind of like they're in tune to like the community, like they understand that, oh, maybe there's like a social atmosphere, like or maybe everyone's using me too much and no one's like socializing, like shit, like maybe there's a certain self-awareness of the agent in the system it's in. um and I I'd like to know more about what you're doing. You said an alchemist. Yeah, it seems like a cool like endeavor. I would say go for it. That seems cool. Yeah, we're totally for it. Yeah. Oh, any questions from other people? Well, okay. Let me okay. I don't know if I can share screen right now, which is weird, but I can if y'all can see the dot the Bible space. communication thing. I'm going to show you a few of the things we've done in like the dashboard. And so it's kind of, it's not perfect, but like let's see. I want to show a few things. Um, Here's like an example of me staking 10. Oh, let me see. Let me just take one of
Hello, is this better? Albeit not. So yeah, if you see the dashboard, okay, yeah, oh, like still in progress, obviously, but here you have like a few things. You got like your key info, and stakes, transfer, whatever. But in this case, I want to like let's say stake. It says zero, but I would stake let's say 10 or like 100 on each of these ones, right? So like there's some like let's say if I wanted to use like 20 OpenAI endpoints, then I'll like stake like a certain amount on all these 20 OpenAI endpoints, or maybe just like one. It would be like either a validator that represents maybe 100 OpenAI points. Either one works, but the point is that you are putting your tokens to what you think is valuable. That that is what I want. You might not want to do that, or you might not do that, but that's the intention we're trying to do. Is for you to basically use like the tokens that you have, you've earned, bought, whatever, um, to essentially say, hey, I think that this is a cool idea. And right now you see model OpenAI and stuff, and that this is obviously a use case for like a simple use case. Um, but like yeah, no, that's the idea is like we want like users to choose or to help support modules and developers. Um, and I think the stake voting system, like voting a module by its name, or saying, hey, I want to vote for this, and I want to maybe move. Let's say, oh, I don't like this module anymore. Maybe I want to, or I don't find use of it anymore. Let me just put my stake in something else that I find useful. Um, that's going to be something that we're going to be more and more going to get in tune with, and then eventually it's just going to be a bot on your end that's just going to say it's going to find for the best things that you might find useful, or you're going to ask it, hey, is there anything that does this for me, or what's the weather, or like general question, and it's going to go search across all of like the tools in the network, and then like maybe it doesn't need to search that. It could be like, oh, if you're asking what the weather is, they'll just use a Google API, and then it'll just like be like, yeah, the weather's this. Like, but the idea is that it's like when you have this like network of tools, like the applications are endless. Like you can have like banks that people can run. Actually, like it could run like represent like 30 modules, and they're all like being incentivized to stay on the network and be public accessible. Like it's I don't know. There's a lot of things you can do, and we're defining it. Like we're defining applications module by module. Question? Well, any other questions? Feel free to ask them out. Easier, or you can conclude it because it's almost one. Yeah, you know what? Let's. Any last questions before we conclude? It is almost one. Oh, sorry. I didn't know if I heard that. All right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, feel free to like ask questions on the Discord, um, or like Twitter, whatever. But yeah, like I just want to say that like this is a really ambitious project, and it's been really rough getting all these things to work. And when things are improving, but it's like, yeah, like I'm new to this. Like it's my first company, uh, but I'm a really ambitious and realistic person, and like I hope that goes to show that most of the code that you see, or a lot of it, I've done for the past 3-4 years, and this is like a lifelong thing for me. And you might not see that now or believe me, but you can leave the group and then come back in 5 years and then buy me a beer if I'm still there. uh, but yeah, this is a lifelong thing for me, and like right now the goal is to get people, make sure that we have a fair system. Again, I'm trying. I'm not being the greedy person. Otherwise, I'd probably have more than 25% of the network right now. So like I do think that community deserves to be rewarded, and I'm sure some people are getting a lot more than they need. uh, so I'm trying to figure out, okay, who's getting a big part of the pie, and then who's not getting a big part of the pie, but committing this, like contributing the same. And so we're just trying to make a fair network for everyone, and you know that's why I'm fine with I'm fine with people not having a majority of like the tokens, because I do think that if someone has a lot of tokens, or as much as me maybe, um like then it would be out of their interest to do that, like to essentially do what's bad for the network, because it would self-sabotage. uh but if they want to self-sabotage, then we can also fuck them over too if we want to. As a community, we could be like, oh, fuck this guy. Or like there's ways in which we can do that. We can move forward, because as long as we continue uh to like believe in this idea of like an open ecosystem and an open economy for like not just AI but anything, like essentially recreating an internet that allows anyone to make like an internet company, right? Like this is like not a smart contract. So this is like if smart contracts were like much more powerful, like actual like servers or companies. Like this is like this is a new realm that I think we haven't really appreciated yet, or we're not really fully tapped into. But yeah, man, no, this is my life, and if y'all want to help out, feel free to reach out. There's a bunch of bounties, bunch of stuff you guys can do, uh, and yeah, we'll keep it at that. And I'll let you guys know about the thing that's gonna happen in a few days, with like the module presentation showcase, and we'll have a reward for like the most voted one, like. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, cool. All right, I'm gonna hop off, but yeah, we're gonna have these parameter votes either tomorrow or Wednesday, and yeah, Thursday or Friday. I'm gonna have the module showcase, and yeah, we're gonna have bounty prizes for the coolest module. So make sure uh, you can showcase your module. If you can't for any reason, we have a lot of compute. Another thing I wanted to mention, maybe last minute, is I am going to the mining uh, cabal I am building is going to be an open cabal, meaning that all the compute that I have that is unused, anyone can come to me and be like, "Hey, I want to use this," and I will give them the compute, or I will try to find a way to give them the ability to use that compute, and I will give them all the emissions. Or maybe I'll take like, I don't know, like we'll figure out a percent. Maybe I'll take like 5% or something. But the point is to um grow this network and give people free compute, or not free, but like compute that incentivizes both the compute provider and the builder. So this open cabal is not like previous cabals you may have seen, but it's more of like a transparent, like, okay, let's uh let's create these like tools that anyone can use in the open. Um, so that's something I'm also working on as well. But yeah, like the chain upgrades will be done this week. Um, targeted is Thursday. Don't want to do a Friday update. But yeah, like we'll stay on track for that. All right, take care, y'all, and till next time.
Thanks.
See ya.